guys, welcome back to another Doom of Fools podcast. We have the statistically best player in the world right now, the Boyle winner. We got Jordan. What's up, man? How you doing, buddy?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. We have a lot to get into today. We got TNT took it down. I don't know if anybody who's watching. I'm gonna put the video down below, but he took it down, man. There's Kennen, TNT, and Magda, and that was a hell of a pod. So we're gonna talk about how TNT felt. We're gonna talk about, is TNT the best deck in the format? Is Kennen the best deck? How did it feel going in? How did the finals feel? How was the event? Me personally, I had a great experience. The event was fucking awesome. 322 people, I believe. 320 something.
324.
324, yeah. So let's get into it, man. How did you get into Magic?
Oh man. So
peeling the curtain back, we're getting to know you a little bit. You're about to get famous. You're about to get a trillion Twitter followers.
So I saw really playing real Magic, right? Not just kind of goofing off with my dad's old cards. What was it? Commander Masters. So like 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
Something like that. It was like Commander Masters or Modern Horizons 2. I think it was somewhere around that was my first Magic set, because my wife and I had bought a box of Commander Masters and we constructed a couple of just casual Commander decks out of that.
That is so cool.
There's a local store in our area I was basically working for, and just to get to kind of know the product more, because I was doing their social media management and marketing. And I didn't really know much about Magic other than I kind of knew it because I used to play in my dad's old card collection when I was much younger, and he just threw me a box of Magic cards and said, whatever. And my brother and I would just kind of throw them around, and we didn't really know what we were doing.
Right, so, it's the arts. Yeah.
Oh man, just show you how nerdy I am. I used to take the Scaled Worm, the 7/6 green creature that's got no text,
exactly what you're talking about,
and pretend it was a Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Oh yeah,
because we watched the Yu-Gi-Oh, anime.
We're in the same ballpark. Yeah. Heart of the cards, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. So you're fairly new, like I am. I started, I believe, in 2021. Yeah, so that's cool. I'm seeing that a lot. I'm seeing like Wounded's only been playing for about a year. Ian's only been serious about it for 4 or 5 years. Like I've noticed this is more of like a modern format. It's kind of funny. It's modern, but like the last couple years, people are like, "What are all these other cards?" It's very like 2020 and above. So that's really cool. So being a newer player, right? Like how'd you get into CEDH, and kind of how did really the bans affect like your deck choice? Were you on Blue Farm before TNT? And like going into the Boyle, how did you feel, and how did you prepare?
Yeah, so for your first question, like why CEDH? Honestly, it was frustration born out of playing casual. I felt like my local play group at our local store, it was like no matter how much I tailored down my list, I could never. It was either I was running into two issues. It was either I couldn't make a deck that I enjoyed playing because it wasn't good enough to ever really stay with the rest of the table, or it was too strong, and people would ask me not to bring it back. And after that happened like 2 or 3 times where I was asked not to bring a deck back, or it was made very clear that deck was not really welcome at the table, I actually took like a 6-month break from Magic to where it was like, okay, maybe I just need a break from it all. And I came back and won just a very small local, there was like a budget tournament with Toxrill.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got kind of the taste for it. I then met who are like my best friends now, July, TK and Chris, who I run a channel with as well. And they kind of pushed me into CEDH. And from there I think I ran Toxrill at like one event, did terrible. And then I picked up Marneus, and that's been the deck that I played that was what I played through the Boyle, and through most of my first year of playing CEDH was on Marneus Calgar.
Cool. I love Marneus. I'm a big Esper guy. I brought Tim to Malcolm to the Boyle. Yeah. I love Esper. I played Tivit for a year. I love Marneus. That is so cool.
Yeah. So Marneus was the first one, and then I switched off to Najeela for a bit. I top 4'd my first gold event on Najeela, and then won my very first CEDH event on Najeela, but then did kind of poor with it at the Top Deck Open. Just the weaknesses of the deck became really prominent to me, and so I was like, I'm not really sure this is the deck that I want to continue to move forward with, but I was struggling to find something. Got on Niv Mizzet, won a league with Niv Mizzet, won top 4 at a small tournament on Niv Mizzet, and then of course the ban happened, so Niv was dead.
Bye. I like that new Niv though. That new Niv is spicy.
Yes, I really like him too.
I saw him in Malcolm Pettis at the Boil, and it was like lightning bolt your face, draw 3 cards. I was like, I want to do that. I don't know about the commander, but that card's sweet.
I agree. But yeah, so Niv dying kind of forced me to kind of reconsider. I took Marnius to another event, did poorly with him again. Felt like he was just a tad slow. But then, I don't remember who. I think it was just one of my buddies was like, TNT is very, it's TK from Playing with Power. He's a good friend of mine. We were talking and he told me that TNT is really, really close to Marnius. It operates on a very similar axis. You're just dumping the infinite mana to your commander, and you're kind of dig for those infinite mana combos, and so it just does it more efficiently and a lot better. Not as many of the kind of weird cards that Marnius sometimes requires you to run. Picked it up, had a lot of fun with it, was practicing with it, having a good time. Took it to Lotus Bowl, top 4 Lotus Bowl, and so it's feeling really, really good coming into the Boil on it, and then obviously had a really good run at the Boil.
Yeah. For sure. So, that's kind of where I'm at, is, I'm in the Esper shell, right, Tymna Malcolm, and the deck feels so strong, right? But it's missing the button. It's missing I have this combo, I have red, I have a Devoted Druid, I have this button that I can just win out of nowhere. Because Thorkel's Thorkel, Meme Betrayal, Praetor's Grasp. That's the win consonant, right? So Esper is good. I think Tymna Malcolm's A tier. After playing in the Boil, I think it's A tier. But, I feel like TNT and Kennen are on their own tiers after the tournament. Me personally, and we're going to do a little deck breakdown and how you feel about it. But I definitely feel your pain with that Esper shell, because Marnius is fucking good. Marnius is hold my beer. If you want to draw cards, watch me draw cards. That deck's crazy, right? But again, it's getting over that hump of taking it to the Boil. So I completely understand why you changed. So go ahead.
I was gonna say what I really liked about Marnius, especially pre-ban, was that he attacked the meta in a really unique way by basically punishing the best decks, right? The Rog size and the blue farms were going to draw a lot of cards. And if you could get your Tithe online, and that was really what you were
best deck.
for.
Yeah, the best card in the deck is Tithe. Yeah.
Right. So if you get that online, you punish the format in a way that a lot of other decks can't really. A lot of other decks, they can put a Tithe down, but what does all this extra mana really do for you? Marnius, though, getting the extra card draw and then being able to filter that into more card draw made him really, really
I always
cool.
said with Marnius that Smothering Tithe was Tibbet's time sieve. We have to counter Marnius to Smothering Tithe. Guys, I promise you it's going to start going crazy, right? So
but all my buddies, they convince me, right? It's a do nothing commander, and as much as it hurts my heart, it is, right? I have to have the other stuff.
Yeah. So. Well, Thrasios is the best it's ever been.
Yes.
Right? It was Thrasios Tymna was on top, and then red happened, and it was blue farm on top, and then now we're coming back to the Thrasios decks. After playing Tymna Malcolm and playing a Tymna deck, Tymna's still really, really strong. But I feel in that deck, Tymna's commander number 2. I feel you sit behind a Thrasios, and you have all these dumb combos that go, oh, I just win here. Oh, okay. Devoted Druid. Oh, darn, you counter my Devoted Druid. Next turn. Oh, I got to say this before we get into it. The card that won you the goddamn game. What's it? The Hazel's
Brewmaster.
Hazel Ball Liquor, whatever. I thought that card was fucking trash. I'm Devoted Druid SwiftCon. I'm on, Devoted Druid's a good Magic card. I was on it on Tevis Thrasios. I was on the Machine Gods and Devoted Druid. I was on you on that, and I was I would never put that dumb black card in my deck. There's no way. And then we're literally 2 hours removed from the Boil. We're on the road, and we see you and win with that fucking card. And me and my brother were like, all right, I think that card's pretty good. And we both just pie in our face. All right, that's how to prove me wrong. So the previous week's episode, me and Nato did the top 10. The other guy, the top forward with TNT, we did a top 10, and we had kind of not a heated debate, but we had a debate. And I was like, I think Kennen's number 1, Blue Farm's number 2, Magda's number 3. And he was like, no, I would put TNT in that Blue Farm spot. And I was like, nah, man, Blue Farm's still good. I need to see it. I'm eating my words. I literally feel like it's Kennen, TNT, everybody else, and then now TNT can say, hey, so going forward, like after this tournament, post meta, like, is it a TNT format? Is it a Kennen TNT? Like, you need a good reason not to play TNT, like you did not playing Blue Farm.
Yeah, I think so. Kennen was always going to come out of the ban really well because it didn't really get punished for it. Yeah, like it lost crit, but really who cares when you're 12 mana up on everybody else just by Kennen's ability. And I think TNT is the same way. It's the most efficient infinite mana win right now, I think, in the format. Even more efficient than Kennen in a lot of ways because my commander's already right there. You still have to go find yours, and you have to find the Mirage Mirror. You know, you have to find another piece. My commander's here. I'm winning as soon as this slams.
Well, and that the Hazel just got printed, right?
Bloomberg.
Talk about a perfect time for a ban.
Right.
Like, the new best card in the deck just got printed. Like, all right.
And it did, right? It opened up so many new lines that happened, like, quickly, right?
Survival.
Like, survival.
That card's playable now. Before, nobody was on it. Yeah.
I can win at instant speed with Valley Flood Call and Neoform just by Neoforming out the Devoted Druid into Ewit, back to Neoform, and then, into the Hazels.
Yeah.
Getting rid of the Devoted Druid, that's already in the graveyard. And that's instant speed, right? So really the deck has gotten flexible in where I can decide I get to dictate where I want to win the game. Right now.
And I was looking at it earlier to touch on Hazel and the Druid combo. I was just looking at it. What I like doing is I like taking combo pieces like a Hazel or a Thorkel. I like looking at them as a card. Thorkel fucking sucks as a card, but it's the easiest way to win the game, right? So it's playable, right? So Hazel, it's like, what does Hazel do by itself? Or what does Devoted Druid by itself? And I'm just like, okay, play Devoted Druid. I tap Devoted Druid once. Okay, I'll tap it again and kill it. And then Hazel, I win, right? Or Survival of the Fittest. Or Hazel, da-da-da-da. Like, that combo is so easy to set up. It's like, oh, okay, I don't know if it was your game, but I saw a game where it wasn't your game. I think it was it was NATO's top 16 was he cast the Druid in the SwiftCon, right? So Druid resolved, SwiftCon targeting it or whatever, and then something happened where they killed the Druid. So next turn they go, okay, untap, upkeep, Hazel, ETB, da-da-da-da-da. When I make a food. I'll put it up here, but you make a food, and the food is activated abilities of the Druid. So it's literally like, okay, you can't, unless you don't Swords the Druid, the graveyard's the last place you want that card to be, right? And people don't think about it. So then it's just like 4 black mana, I win the game, and it's like, oh shit, and it's in speed, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like as soon as the food token enters, it's over because anything you do, I just start responding on top of because I can just untap at instant speed.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing
you can't die, right? And Trick Bind.
Yeah, you put a trillion -1/-1 counters on it. Trick Bind is, I guess, the one card right that stops it, but it's niche. It's super niche.
So once the Hazel, not the Hazel. Yeah, once the
food token.
Once the food token enters, you win no matter what.
Yeah, right.
Because
it's all in one effect.
Okay, yeah. Once the ETB at Hazel passes, there's no way of... Okay. That's why it's so strong, too, right? Because how many times you done Kennen where you tap 4, you untap 3, and then something happens, right?
Well, I shouldn't say it's that... I guess there's 2 cards there, right? Because I found out about Siege Smash last night in that top 4 game. I hadn't really seen that card played, and all of a sudden...
Magda.
The Basalt went... Yeah. So that's, I guess, another card because of Split Second. So outside of Split Second, there's really nothing anyone can do to interact with it.
Yeah, that was crazy. We were watching it, and we see Magda show the card in his hand to NATO, and I'm like, what the fuck does... Because you almost lost to Kennen. We'll get to the Final Four breakdown in a little bit, but you almost lost to Kennen, and Magda goes like this on stream, and me and my brothers are like, what the fuck would Magda have to remove a Basalt? Split Second, blah, blah, blah. What? Okay. Magnus saves the fucking day, because I don't think you had anything at that point. I don't remember. We'll talk about it later. But so you did confirm it. Leaving the Boyle 2025 Magic, you feel like TNT is the deck to beat?
I personally do. Like I said, I think it just operates on an axis that a lot of other decks are going to struggle to match. But I think Sultai really is just in a great place right now, all the way around. It just has so many great combos and so much really cool interactions. I was a little surprised, like we didn't see any Glarbs or anything, because I think Glarb's also got some really cool stuff going on. I just think Sultai and above, right, is just in a really good place.
So since you said that, I almost brought my first CDH deck, like actual real CDH, is Tevesh Thrasios. And then I have a slab Tevesh. I show everybody that asks. Right, Tevesh Calm was my main deck, and then the bans happen. And I have a Tevesh Thrasios sleeved up. It's proxied up. I thought about taking it to the tournament, but I thought it was too slow. So since you just said Sultai's in a good place, like, do you think I could bring Tevesh Thrasios? You think it could do something? Or should I just play TNT at that point?
I think, right, you're probably just better off playing TNT.
Yeah.
I think Sultai and above are in good spots, but I think the problem that Tevesh has is that you have to get Tevesh out and then defend Tevesh and still operate the same way that a Tevesh deck would. And I think it's a little tougher right now. And so the consistency isn't quite as high. But if you do get Tevesh on, especially with the way boards get gunked up now, especially as the day was going on, I noticed, round 6, 7 at some of the higher end tables, the boards were getting really gunked up with creatures, and it was making Tymna attackers really hard to get through that didn't have, some form of evasion. That I think Tevesh actually could fill that niche a little bit, where it's like, well, I don't need to get through. I get card draw in my command zone that isn't predicated on being able to get attackers through people's defenses.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, I agree.
And you still, I mean, at that point, right, you get access to Necro because you already are having to run the black rituals that I think most TNT decks probably don't worry about. You maybe build a little bit more around Adnaz because you still, you have those rituals. So maybe it becomes why not just stick it in here? It's just another kind of I win button.
Yeah, I noticed in like Esper decks and Sultai decks, Adnaz is kind of bad, but like Necro's always good because obviously I'm on Born Upon a Win. That card's fucking great. Right, I'm on Manamo One Ring stuff with Seaborn Muse, right? So Born Upon a Win's always really good in that deck.
And Valley Flood Caller.
Yeah, but like Adnaz is. How do you feel? Before we get through your tournament breakdown, how do you feel about the controversy? Not controversy, but everyone's debating on it. The Valley Flood Caller lines with Retraction Helix, because everyone's like, Retraction Helix is the easiest card ever to counter, right? But I keep seeing TNT win with that stupid combo, right? It's you get Infinite Storm, Infinite Mana with a rock, right? So it's like, how do you feel? Are you running in your list, and how do you feel about it?
Oh, 100%. I won the top 16 game off of it.
Oh, spoiler alert. Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's a great card because it feels right, like we were talking about before, right? One of the issues with most win cons is they suck outside of winning the game.
Correct.
Like if I draw this in the middle of the game, it's terrible and it doesn't do anything for me. Retraction Helix is really nice because it does something for me if I'm not winning the game.
Does it?
Because I just can bounce a permanent, right? So I can bounce if I need to bounce like a stacks piece, I can. I bounce, so not in this tournament, but in previous tournament, I bounced a Obnix's Bolas Citadel in their loop.
Oh shit!
They cast Culling the Weak. Culling the Weak to bring out the Citadel. They're out of mana at that point. When they kind of looked like they were starting to get a little scarier, like they were going to start gassing themselves up, I went ahead and bounced it. The next card was just nothing he could really do anything with. So he's like, oh well, shoot, I guess I lose my Bolas Citadel now, and then from there was able to win the game. And so it's really nice from that way. I've got Ewit to get it back if I need to. So it's versatile, and that's what I like. And it holds the spot that you could use like for a Psych Rift or a Chain or an Into the Flood Maw, because it does basically the same thing. Having a creature body is almost never a problem. And worse comes to worse, if you don't have a creature body, one of your opponents probably does, and they're probably happy to help you bounce, the win on the stack.
You can Retraction target your opponent's creature.
You absolutely
they
can.
tap it.
Yeah, because it just says target creature. It does not specify it has to be yours.
Because the Rogs and the Tymnas and the Dirtily creatures, they're not tapping anyway.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. You sold me because I was on Rona. I played Rona and Pioneer, and I had a Rona deck, and Retraction Helix is like a combo with Rona. With like Mox Amber, you just loot through your whole deck. So I like the card personally. Just if I were to build a TNT deck, I was kind of like on it, but I wasn't sure because I don't play the deck, right?
Yeah, and really, it is like a tertiary win con, right? But if your tertiary win con is also going to do something besides just sit there in your hand, then that's also great, right? Like it, worst comes to worst, you bounce a rock and you get more value out of it. Like if that's really where you want to waste it, sure, right? Like if it's helping accelerate you forward, it's got a lot of utility though for a win con for 1 mana. Like I just feel if you're looking at your 99th and 100th slot, you're gonna do a lot worse than that card.
Okay, I got you. I mean, it's kind of it's in that Thoracle slot. Like it's the 97th, 96th worst card in your deck, but it's a combo. But it's a combo spell, right? Like, who fucking wants to see a Thoracle in the wrong time? Nobody does. So in that vein, Retraction Helix can do something, right? It's not better than Thoracle, but it can do something else that Thoracle cannot.
Right. And that's why it's like tertiary, right? Like obviously our primary is to get some kind of Devoted Druid line out. Your secondary is probably just the Thoracle consult out, and then third is that banishing, or not banishing act, but the Retraction. Banishing act, but Retraction.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and do this now. I'm going to share my screen. Can I just go over the deck a little bit? Let's go to a couple, see if you're on anything. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Let's see if there's anything crazy that I'm not really used to seeing. While we go, like, you're on Eternal Witness lines, like you said. You got the Hazel. Yep. So Hazel Brewmaster's 3 and a black menace. Enters or attacks, exile one target creature from a graveyard, create a food. Foods you control have all activated abilities of all creatures exiled. Yeah. Okay. So you're on Cutzel, Seaborn Muse. How's Polywog working out?
I like it. I think it's one of the best turn 1 plays in the game right now. If you can get it out and then you can start, casting like Tymna, immediately evolve it, and then from there, 1 mana on it. Like I know some people say, well, if it's only got 1, it's not that good, but it'll draw you a ton of cards in a stack battle. Yeah. And for 2 mana, be able to draw you cards, like I'll take it. I'll take it every day.
Well, for me, like in Kennen decks, like for me, a Polywog on 0 is bad unless you're on the play, right? Polywog after 0's good.
Right, but imagine this, right? Polywog on your turn 1, you turn 2 into Kinnan, evolve it. Your first Kinnan flip gets you really anything that's a 3 and above.
Yeah, just Kinnan doesn't.
And with all the
go ahead.
Well, with all the but with all the big flips, you're going to keep hitting more and more Polywog.
Just
evolves, and I get it, right? Like at a certain point, you don't want stuff in your hand, but. What's better, right? To spend your 7 and flip Kinnan into nothing, like that's, a bop, for example, or to have that 7 drop in your hand and just be able to cast it naturally. Like, I think there's a give and take there that exists.
Just with Kinnan, I think Wounded was talking about it, or Comedian was talking about it. I think that makes for bad play patterns in Kinnan specifically, because Kinnan doesn't want to do that. Kinnan wants to play rock, Kinnan turn 2 or Kinnan turn 1, right? But, like, it's still generically good. But in this deck, or, like, a Tymna deck, I kind of like it. It's a 1/3 body, right? Just say you cast a 2-mana 1/3, right? Like, it's never dying anywhere. And then you get 1 creature in. Thrasios doesn't trigger, but Tymna does.
Tymna does, yeah.
Okay. I like it.
I think it's worth it. And it's also, worst comes to worst, it's another target for Retraction Helix if my Valley Flood Caller just got flashed in.
You're selling me on that card more and more. So we got the good creature package, Sans Red. So now we got, all the good sorceries. So what are you playing on instance? What we got? So you got Cord, Crop Rot. Are you Talongate's deck?
No.
No, so what's Crop Rot for?
E-Zone, Gaia's Cradle.
Gaia's Cradle. I totally forgot. How many creatures are we on? 23? Okay. So Gaia's Cradle. Got it.
E-Zone
if you have
Seaborn.
to. Yeah. Okay, so Trap. So it's still, you're on all the basic stuff, right? Yeah, there's nothing spicy here. Erupt Decay. Probably not in some lists, but I like this card. Okay, so we're on the creature tutors. Artifacts. What do we got? We got all the basic stuff. You're on Grim Monolith. Okay. Not a lot of TNT decks play Grim Monolith. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's really good with Seedborn.
Yeah. Wishclaw, I've been cutting. Other than Roxai, I've been cutting Wishclaw because, like, a mid-range deck like this, it always feels bad giving it to an opponent, right? But, I mean, if you could just cast it earlier and then just one mana activate it, win, right?
And yeah, that's the idea behind it. I've also had like some games where I've won just by bouncing it back to my hand and then replaying it.
Retraction Helix your creature. Tap your creature, bounce the Wishclaw.
I've done it before. It's kind of funny.
That's hilarious. And then we're on Carpet, Study, Tithe. Okay, so this is like Eat Your Wheaties TNT list. If you look at NATO's list, it's a little spicier. This is like very... I went to church this morning. I'm going to win a fucking Magic tournament. This is how Richard Garfield wants us to play Magic. But I like it, though. It's refined. It's not, I'm trying this card out. Like, no. This deck is good. This list is good. I'm going to play it. I'm going to win the biggest tournament ever. You did. Yep. Deadly Rollick. Yep.
I really refined it over weeks and weeks of play because I had some interesting stuff there. Like I had Brina at one point, the demigod.
I see it.
Actually, it's still on my sideboard. Yep. Yeah. And I liked it. It was really funny, especially with Polywog. It was really hilarious. So there was like some synergies that were existing there, but I felt it was just a tad slow. I felt like most games I was practicing, I was winning at instant speed. So I kind of leaned more into that route.
Yeah. Brina, like for a non-blue deck. Like a non-blue Temna deck, you can convince me on Brina. Like an Abzan Temna, right? Like, I'd be okay with that. But just like, you're on blue, right? And then, like, when Blue Farm was playing it, I was like, Adnaz, you're on blue. It's your worst engine by far. But, like, TNT, you probably could sneak a Brina in. But, I mean, you cut it for a reason, right? So.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just a tad slow for what I think that deck does. But, like... I think if I was going to build, like you were talking about before we started, right, your Malcolm Timna list, I love it, Malcolm Timna. I think it's kind of funny there.
I was flirting with it, but I didn't like it. But there's just so many, like that 3-4 mana slot of that type of card. I had so many of those. Like I had Shieldred and Draenei Lavala and Brina and this card. Insert 4 mana engine here. I had like 10. So I ended up cutting all that, and I played the new Enduring Curiosity. That was just that's way better than all of those by far because of Flash, right? Yeah, I'm a Flash, kill your blocker. I'm gonna Flash, instep, attack with it. I draw all my. I don't know if anybody knows what it does, but it hits any creature hits you draw cards, right? So
I love it, Najeela.
Yeah, Najeela's sick. Yeah. So I mean, Brina's, put in the comments below if I'm wrong, but I personally don't like Brina, but
yeah, I think it's cute, right? It's a cute card, but like you said, there's a reason I cut it. It also nombos with Delny, which is probably your best card in Malcolm Timna.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of wanted to talk about TNT a little bit as well as. Guys, if you see him, like, he's obviously a good pilot, and you're going to see TNT all over this tournament. Yeah, TNT's probably the best deck or top 2 with Kennen for sure, but I think if you're not an experienced pilot, do not just fucking build a TNT list that you like, right? Like, I was like in the lower pods, right? I drew a lot, and I played the Redemption Tournament. I saw TNT in almost every pod I played, and at no point in time was I scared of the deck / the pilot. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of players pick up a deck like that. Like, Blue Farm was really easy to play because it was very forgiving. And you can mulligan anything. TNT, you have to kind of, okay, I'm Thrasios. Am I Temna this game? Am I Lunar Combo? Like, you have to kind of know what you're doing. So when generic people that aren't really that familiar with this format and this deck, they fare to do bad with it. Like, I didn't lose to in TNT. Out of like 8 rounds, I didn't lose to it. But then you look at the top 4 and there's 2 of them. Right? So the deck's good, but I feel like it's kind of have that Kennen effect where I don't think TNT's generically as good as Blue Farm was. Right, but in the right hands, like against you, I'm fucking scared to death, right? But also with that being said, like what Max P won 3 weeks ago, and me and NATO were talking about Max P was like, I felt unstoppable. He was like, I can pick my windows when I want to win. I have so many win cons. And I think Jorman was in 4th or 5th place with a TNT deck, and they had 30 cards different.
Wow.
Yeah. So you're talking 1st place to 4th place, 30 cards different. And Jordan was on the crazier stuff, not on Grand Abolisher, on the spicy, and Max B was more on the flash stuff like you are. So, like, TNT is not solved in any way. And I'm sure NATO's list is probably 10, 15 cards off of yours. He didn't win like you did, but he top forward. And that says something. NATO literally waited on you guys to play for like an hour and a half. And TNT's not even a fast deck, right? He won like turn 3, turn 4. So, like, he's a good pile, and that deck can, run away with the game easily. But I just feel like that deck's not solved, and that's the scariest part about TNT. Also, it's going to get better before it gets worse, right? Unless they unban Dockside. That's the only way it gets worse. But going forward, like, okay, you're going to give me another combo, you're going to give me another Hazel, you're going to give me another green creature, sweet, right? So I'm done yapping. The floor is yours. Let's talk about it. So how did you feel TNT felt throughout the tournament? And let's kind of go round by round, kind of all the scenarios, and then we'll get into the top 16. What you got?
Sure. All right, so you want me to break it down by round?
Break it down, man. How'd it feel? What do you got? You don't have to go like players and just like genuinely how you won and if politics were a thing and yada, yada, yada.
Cool. Yeah, so round 1, I set the record for the fastest CDH win in history.
What?
Pre-game win. None of my 3 players showed up.
Oh, okay. I was like, really?
No. So yeah,
you gotta buy.
So I sat down. I actually had a win that counted as a win. That was a functional buy because the other 3 players, I sat down at my table to play. My other 3 players did not show up. I don't know if it was a software matching issue, if they forgot to drop them. I have no idea what happened. But I sat there alone at a table. Waited a couple minutes, and judges eventually gave me the win, DQ'd the other 3, or dropped them. I actually don't know what happened to the other 3 players. And I got a free win coming out of round 1, which was like, okay.
Can you imagine sitting there and you're like, all right, get my deck out?
Well, at first, I thought I was on the stream game, and I just didn't know. So I was like, I even asked the judge, I was like, am I on stream? And I just didn't hear him. And so I'm like sitting there like an idiot while the other 3 are waiting for me. So I don't know what happened. But kind of lucky way to start the tournament, right?
Hey, buy's a buy. It's a lot better than a draw.
Yeah,
that's another thing I felt like for my pods, people were playing for the draw. They weren't playing to win. I put a Grand Abolisher on the stack, and they're like, here's 7 counter spells. There's no way that's resolving. Let's just draw. And I'm like, I think I can fight through these counter spells. Right? But now I'm going to, you know what I'm saying? But anyways. Yeah. So sweet. 1-0, baby.
Yeah. Round 2. Let me pull up my phone real quick because I had these written down.
Sweet.
Just for this occasion. All right. So round 2 was TNT, Shorakai, TNT, and Kenrith. Wild game. Shorakai went nuts. Just completely off the rails. Scared the crap out of us. We were fighting tooth and nail against it. Me and the other TNT player were basically the only ones in the fight. The Kenrith, basically the only thing the Kenrith did was tutor twice. And that's going to be relevant. I'll tell you guys why it's relevant at the end. But anyway, spent all of our interaction stopping Shorakai. Got to my turn. I'm holding Chord and Demonic Consultation in my hand. I've got all the mana in the world. And for some reason, and I think this ended up coloring the way I played the rest of the tournament, I felt like so much interaction had been used. I knew Kenrith had nothing. Shorakai had nothing. There's no way the other TNT player I was thinking had anything left in the cannons at this point, right? Because he was basically like, I think I'm out too. So I go to Chord for 2. They let it resolve, get the Thoracle, ETB on the stack, cast the Demcon. The other Thoracle or the other TNT player then casts a Demcon, and I'm like, no, I didn't think anyone had anything left.
Oh no.
Grabs a Mental Misstep. Obviously it worked. Mental Misstep my Demcon, and I was like, crap. Well, I think we just lose to Shorakai now because there is an active Hullbreaker on the field. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm just cooked now. Pass turn. Kenrith drops Thoracle Consult right behind me. And I was like, no, what have I done? Because I knew he tutored twice, and I figured it had to have been Thoracle Consult. And I don't know what I was thinking, why I didn't just wait for him, because I knew it was probably there. And I had the Chord, right? Like, I had an instant speed win I could have done right on top, and I would have been just fine. So, lost that game. a little frustrated at myself. Definitely a little bit of a mistake, but that literally, I felt like the rest of the game, I was like, all right, I'm going to decide my windows a little bit better than that because that was really, really rough. So round.
Kenrith just won.
Yes. So Kenrith and Seat 4 won that game. Which is crazy because that's all they did. That's all they did. Cast Kenrith, tutor twice, win. I was like, wow. What a way to go down. That's really all there is on that game. Round 3 was Blue Farm, TNT, Rakdos the Muscle, and Rogthras. And one other really weird. Yeah, Rogthras, another weird one. Rogthras got off to a pretty decent start, if I remember. This is the game I actually struggle to remember the most, other than Rakdos the Muscle cooked the crap out of us, bro. It was really rough. That's sick. Yeah. I think it was the same Rakdos that actually top 16, but he cooked us real bad. And I was starting to feel a little frustrated myself because I really misplayed in that game. The Rakdos player had played down his Ashnod's altar, and he had the Poxwalkers of Nurgle. So, like, every time they die, they just come right back as soon as you cast any kind of spell. And so he was basically able to keep looping stuff around to where he was able to sack the Poxwalkers, then bring them right back, and then sack them, and do the Rakdos thing over and over and over again, as long as, he kept exiling stuff. And just, we had no real response for it. The thing that was frustrating for me is I had gone to counter a bunch of stuff, and I ended up tapping my last I had a Mox Diamond, and I ended up tapping my last source with an Abrupt Decay in my hand to counterspell. And I had just held it for the Abrupt Decay. I just Abrupt Decay the Ashnods, and we're fine. And I actually walk out of that game with the win. So kind of 2 games back-to-back, I really misplayed. And really, it wasn't, bad luck or it wasn't anything else. It was purely just, hey, this was misplays on my part. And Rakdos the Muscle ended up taking that game as well.
Really? Okay, so you came down from the trenches.
Oh yeah, dude. I started 1 and 2.
Oh, okay. I thought you did. I think you ended 6 and 2. I don't remember.
Yes.
Damn. So from the trenches. So you got a buy, you got a lucky buy, and then now you're 1 and 2, man. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So coming in round 4, I took a really good break. Thankfully, because Rakdos cooked us so fast, I took a good break. I was trying to get my mind right because it was just, I was like, man, I am getting cooked. Yeah. I'm not playing my best.
Now
I punted 2 games.
Now you got to win. Yeah, you can't go 1 and 3. You're out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or like the climate. Yeah, the climb at that point is so hard to do. It's near impossible. So I was like, okay. So round 4 was Obnix in seat 1. I'm in seat 2. Seat 3 is, hold on. It was Inala, and then Magda in seat 4. So really good game. Actually, all 3 people were personal friends of mine, so it ended up making it kind of funny of a pod. But Obnix pushed for an early win. I had to stop for it. Magda had to use some of their treasures to also stop another Obnix attempt, or maybe it was an Inala attempt, because I think Inala pushed early as well. And really, it came down to they just really had nothing left because Obnix would push basically every turn, and there was nothing left after their last push to stop my just natural Brewmaster throwdown. I basically cast Devoted Druid. This was this game. Sorry, I'm mixing up some of my games.
It's okay.
But
it's okay, man.
This game. So I had a pretty large board state, and I ended up casting Grand Abolisher. But I had really no way to fish for a win. I just felt like if I knew it, Inala had presented a board state that was in a way that there was no way that I could pass to them or I was just going to lose. Like they had the Spellseeker line set up, and I needed to look for now like a really strong stop, and it had to be a creature stop. So in that turn, I ended up casting the Grand Abolisher, but I ended up Culling Ritualing my entire board. And the rest of the board with it, and people had forgotten to sack their treasures and everything with the Abolisher. With the Abolisher down, so I was able to get everyone's treasures, their Lion's Eye Diamond. I ended up walking away with like 24 mana when it was all said and done, but no one had any interaction at this point left to really do anything to me. So I just recast their Asios, started digging,
spinning.
found the found Wishclaw, cast Wishclaw. Grabbed the either Devoted Druid or Hazel's, which one I didn't have, cast it, then cast the other one, and was able to get away to escape that game with a win that way.
Oh, sick! So that calling was like All right, 20 black mana, 4 green mana. Call it a day.
Pretty much, right?
Oh, the card's so busted. I saw an altar today of Culling Ritual, and I'm like, man, I don't have a place for it, but I want this altar. I fucking love that card.
Oh,
that card's so good.
Such a good
It's
card.
either board wipe pass, or if we don't counter this, we're cooked right now. Game is over.
Oh, that's what I love about Thrasios, right? It's never board wipe pass, because at the worst, I'm casting Thrasios, and I will funnel as much of it as I can into Thrasios
Or it's like,
activations, and I get something out of it.
or like,
right?
I'll even destroy my own Thrasios. I don't care. I'm gonna recast it with all the mana I get. Yeah.
Just gave me 1 billion mana. I'm gonna get something out of this.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so juicy. So Culling Ritual wins game. So now we're at 2 wins, 2 losses. Going around 5. So the tournament was the first day 5 rounds, the second day 2 rounds, and then to the cut. So you're going to the last game of the day.
Yep. And this pod was wild. So this pod was Blue Farm in seat 1, Crick in seat 2, me in seat 3, Crick in seat 4.
Oh, okay.
So double Cricks.
Whoa. You look at the Blue Farm, you go, you better fucking mulligan for a goddamn counterspell. Because that's what I'm going to do. Because we need to stop them. Because they don't give a fuck about each other. And they're not interacting with each other. It's like 2 rock sides.
I was like, I don't know how I'm getting out of this game without... Like, as soon as one decides to push, we can only do so much. So it's going to come down to which Crick blinked first. So the player in the Blue Farm player, he ended up tutoring for and showing the swords that he got. And so it was like both Crick players kind of looked at each other and they're like, well, I don't want to go for it and lose my Crick. And the other player's like, I don't want to go for it and lose my Crick, so you go first.
Oh, I love stuff in my hand that I don't have to cast. I love flashing a Deadly Rollick. Fuck around and find out if you want to.
Yeah, it was the funniest thing.
Oh, sweet.
So he did that. I kind of abused the priority a little bit by being able to develop my board while he had to keep holding up mana for that swords. And he got to a point where I think it was like turn 3 or 4. He got kind of tired of holding up mana and watching me develop while he had to sit there, and said, it's your problem now, and tapped out. And I was like, uh-oh. And I think I had one piece of interaction, and I was like, I really have to hope no Crick player decides to push here. And they still, on that turn, did not blink. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting. They're really scared of this. One Crick player was doing some really cool stuff. He was developing his board by using a Voltaic Key to untap his Mana Vault, and then using Sensei's Divining Top to then tap it, and was doing the top thing with it, and was drawing cards and being able to then recast it. And it was really cool how he was setting it up and being able to draw a couple cards off of the Voltaic Key loop that he was doing. And
okay.
And the other Crick player wasn't really doing. I don't really remember. Oh, she went for a Villas. That's what it was. Abby went for Villas. And that's where like the first kind of like, all right, we have to shut this down, which we did. We countered that. She did push in that window. And then he untapped again, tapped back out and said, it's once again your problem. And then I think I just ended up saying, okay, I'm done with this game. And I think I Thoracle consoled it out at that point. Oh, no. Sorry. So yeah, long days, right?
You're
long
good,
days,
man. You're
lots
good.
of games.
We're here for the ride.
So got to my turn. I think I corded out Kinnan, or I finale'd for Kinnan. I'm looking at the board and I'm like, do I jam it here? Because I had the Basalt. That's right. I had the natural Basalt in hand. I'm looking around the table and I'm
The
like,
deck's on Kinnan Basalt? I didn't even know.
it is on Kinnan Basalt.
Okay,
lines.
all right. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Pass right by it.
Basalt ends up working really nicely with Seedborn too, right? I mean, at worst, it's just another mana battery.
Or it's tap Basalt, green, Seaborn Muse. Got him. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. It works, right? If you got nothing else to do with it. So plus I like 2-card win con's really nice. So I had the Basalt in hand and I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, I know Austin well, and he was the Blue Farm player. And so I kind of known him, and I knew like he likes to hold up interaction, but I also know that a lot of times he likes to play it a little riskier. And I think at that point, I think he was gambling on the fact that I would hold up interaction for Crix and I wouldn't push. So I decided I was just going to jam it here. He didn't have anything, and I was able to do the Basalt Kinnan thing and close that game out.
Yeah, that's kind of a double-edged sword, right? You're just like, 2 Crick players, I'm fucking terrified. But also, there's 2 Crick players, and I just have to worry about Blue Farm's interaction, right? So it's a double-edged sword, for sure.
Right. Like at a certain point, if I sit here too long, Crick is just going to go for it. One of them is, and then the other one probably just wins right after. So, like I said, it was whichever Crick blinked first. Thankfully, none of them blinked, and I was able just to get something through.
Right.
And only having to worry about one other player.
In Blue Farm,
the odds were...
Yeah, go ahead.
The odds are in my favor, right?
But Blue Farm has the same mindset you do, though. Blue Farm's like, hey, man, if they fucking... I got to stop them early, can't go late with them, but there's a TNT across the table, and Blue Farm is just like you, where I'm just looking for my combo pieces. I'm looking for one breach, and I know you guys can't stop me. I got to worry about the TNT. Right, so you guys were kind of on the same page, and it ended up working out in your favor.
Yep.
So 3-2 at the end of the day.
Yep.
Man, fuck yeah, let's get some goddamn food. Holy shit, I'm in this. That's 15 points. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
It was basically coming into day 2. I knew, like, waking up, right? I just needed to find one win. Anywhere in that day.
One win, one loss is fine. One win, a draw. You can't draw both games. I don't think 17 points were able to get in.
17 would have gotten me in.
Okay.
If I had drawn both games, I would have snuck in. Because 17 was, 16th place was actually my wife, and she got in at 17.
Oh, your wife top 16.
Yeah. She's Lily, the Malcolm Vile player.
Oh, interesting. That's really cool. Good for you guys.
Yeah.
Cool. So going into day 2, how'd you feel? Were you just like, I have a chance? Or were you like, I don't know how I'm here? Did you feel like you were the strongest player there?
Oh, no. I definitely did not feel like I was the strongest player there. And I mean, even winning, right, I still don't feel like I was the strongest player there. But I felt good. I felt like the deck had done a lot for me. And I felt like every game was, if I'd lost, it was on me, right? It wasn't... My frustration with some of my older decks were it was the deck that would let me down sometimes because it just wouldn't give me the pieces I needed to close the game efficiently. This time I let the deck down. The deck gave me what I needed, and I let it
That's
down.
how I felt with Tim and Malcolm. I felt like most games I played as good as I could, and I had the cards in my hand. I just... it didn't let me down. I don't want to shit on the deck, but it's just... I play an Esper. It's just like... do I just play Blue Farm? Do I just play TNT? It's like my demon on my shoulder, you know. I don't like those decks, right? I like what I like, but it's just like, I think about it every day and I'm like, I just want to win. And when a deck holds you down like that, you're just like,
Yeah, I mean, you've been there, right? With like Esper decks, we draw and we draw and we draw and we draw and we draw. And we've got 30 cards in our hands and still cannot win the game. And you're like, please, for the love of God, give me something to close this game.
Discarding for turn, right? I think Atraxa is good, but Atraxa doesn't hold a candle to TNT. It's like, why are you playing Atraxa? Atraxa is discarding for turn and then never playing their commander. And TNT's just fucking... I'm playing both my commanders early, right?
Yeah, and I'm not a big believer in food chain either because it can't win through a Rhystic study. And that puts it in a rough spot.
Yeah. I like food chain in the right deck.
It's cool, but I think if someone plays a Rhystic study and you have no response to it, you are locked until you can find the response to it.
I've seen people play through it. I've seen somebody go, hey, like an Atraxa, right? All right, I'm going to feed Rhystic Study 5 times, but I'm getting an Atraxa, and hopefully in the Atraxa flip, I get and they don't, obviously, right? But no.
Yeah, but
I'm with you.
Yeah, and if they find anything, right, then you're just kind of sitting there going, oh, well, crap. Because you're going to feed them, right, because you get one instant, right? So for every one instant you find, and hopefully it's the counterspell instant that you're finding, you give them, what, 5? It's 5 or 6 or 7 cards, depending on how much mana you need to get to, because you still need mana to then turn around and restart casting Mist Hollow again.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you don't, because you just sack Atraxa. That's right.
Right. But it does get weird, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully at that point you can have other creatures, and then you just kind of commit to the board.
Yeah.
But no, that's decks that... Oh, my brother's hard on Sithis right now, and I'm like, I really like Sithis. Sithis is sweet, but
The The green white one?
So this is way better post ban, right? It's not the top deck, right? But it's really good because it plays the crazy Darksteel Mutations, the Kinder's Transformations, it plays all that stuff. But I'm like, the best cards in the format is the best thing against this deck. You're gonna feed Heuristic to do your game plan because 1 mana, Wild Growth, cast Wild Growth, draw a card. Right? Okay, now I have 2 Enchantresses, cast Utopia Scroll, draw 2 cards. But you're feeding the Heuristics and the Mystics. So I'm not sold on that game plan yet. I have to see it. But my brother was like, hey man, if somebody took this deck serious and is a good pilot, said this will do a lot of work. But it's just like that is the same with the Food Chain thing where Food Chain's good, just the best card in the format is really good against that card. And that's where I'm kind of like, eee. So keep going. I mean, we're here to hear about it. Round 6. What do you got?
Yeah. So round 6. This was. This was 2 TNTs. So this is actually where I played NATO, Elsha, and Kark Sakashima.
Kark Sakashima.
This was actually the stream game, and I actually haven't watched the stream. I do want to go back and watch it though, because I think I probably misplayed how I tried to.
Round 6.
Round 6.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the stream game. I don't really remember a lot of this game, funny enough. Probably because I was just starting to like get a little warmed up for the day, and I was probably still a little tired. We did stay up a little too late, but
we're Magic players. We do that. I have the biggest tournament tomorrow. Who wants to draft at 3 a.m.? Me and my brother and my other brother were doing that. I went to bed at like 1:15 like a normal person. And I went upstairs at the B&B and I was chilling. They were up till like 4:30 in the morning Friday night. I'm like, y'all are fucking crazy.
Yeah, right. You're like, we play a whole day of Magic, and then, hey, guys, you want to go home and drink and play more Magic?
No, I don't. Yes, I do. Fuck. Yes.
So round 6 is the game I'm haziest on. But I do know a lot really happened, and I ended up drawing, I think, a ton of cards in that game. And I tried to push through a Cutzel that was uncounterable with Delighted Halfling, and NATO had the Mind Break trap for it, and then a massive stack battle ended up erupting, and could not get there. I think I fed Elsha a ton of cards. I think they had like 40 cards in their hand coming in, like out of my turn.
Holy shit.
And then NATO, I think, attempted the silence, and then the Kark Saka player, who is Blake, was doing a whole bunch of stuff to attempt to stop it, doing all the crazy Kark Saka things because they had both Kark and Saka. And got to the point where I think it was just like, I think I Demconned or Tainted Pacted for a Flusterstorm and then showed it and was like, all right, you're silenced and this game is basically over now because we're at time. So we just ended up going to a draw in that game. But I really am the haziest on that one and how that one played out.
We'll go back and watch it. Why not? Fuck it.
Yeah.
Good deal. Okay. So round 7, you're 3-2-1.
Yes, 3-2-1.
So you're not locked in, right? You're at 16.
Yeah. And the way people have been talking, 17 wasn't going to be enough to get in. So I really approached it as this is a win and in. Like I have to win this pod, or I am not making top 16.
Okay, that's a good mindset to go to. Yeah.
And so top 7 was. And I don't quite remember the order they were sitting. Actually, I think it was Kinnan in seat 1, if I remember this correctly. Enris, Gloomstalker in seat 2. Enris, Gloomstalker, and Street Urchin in seat 2. I was in seat 3, and then Rogsai in seat 4. And we kind of all started the game with, okay, well, Enris can only do so much to a Rogsai player. And Kinnan and I were basically kind of looking at each other like, all right, we probably need a mole for the seat 4 Rogsai. And have at least something in the basket to stop the Rogsai player if they decide to jam early. So the way the game, because the game only went to turn 2. I think I won on turn 2 that game. And so the way the game developed, the Kinnan player played out a couple rocks. He kept a very greedy Kinnan hand. It was like rock, land, rock, Kinnan, another rock, I think, into Spellskite. So really, really strong start. But he basically told me, like, it was greed. It was pure greed. I don't remember what Enris played to be honest, but I think it was a turn 1 Enris, if I remember correctly. And then I played out I had Gemstoned, and the Roxai player had Gemstoned. So on my turn, I played out another land, tapped both for Lotho, passed, and then the Roxai player had their Gemstone, and then they played out a land. They gambled for what I didn't know at the time was Underworld Breach. And they played and they played Rog, played Amber, and I think they had Lotus Petal as well. And so they were sitting in a good spot. He's sitting there looking. I think he's got 3 cards in hand, and he's sitting there looking, and he's thinking about it. You know, he's triggered my Lothos, so I'm sitting at a treasure now. And he's like, I think I want to push here. And I go, look, buddy, if you push, I've got you stopped. Or I was like, I've got interaction is what I said. I've got interaction to stop you. How about you just pass right now? Because if I have to blow you out, then I have nothing for Kidden if he pushes on his turn. And he just dropped a ton of mana. And so Roxai player kind of hesitates for a second and goes, okay, I think that's fine, and passes. Which tells me Roxai has no interaction.
Right. Yeah, one pact, and they don't care what you got to say.
Right, yeah. Exactly. So Kidden and I start having a discussion because Kidden draws their card, and Kidden and I start having a discussion about what they're going to do on their turn. Because I was like, well, like I have a stop for Roxai, but if he draws interaction, we're kind of SOL'd here. Like, do you have anything? And he ends up showing me his hand. And I think it was a Mirage Mirror and a creature. I think that's what he ended up showing me. And I showed him the Tainted Pact that I had in my hand. That was my one piece of interaction. And
fucking love that card. It's one of my favorite cards in Magic.
Yeah, so I couldn't have cast it had the Roxai player pushed. And I think that was where I kind of got away with it a little bit. You know, I was like, I've got interaction, right? I didn't say I could cast it, but I definitely have interaction. So was able to get him to hesitate on that. And then, so he showed me his hand, showed me he really had nothing. It got to the Endress player's turn. He showed me his hand too, and showed me he had a stop for a Thoracle win. And I said, okay, cool. But he tapped out for it because he saw that I showed him the Tainted Pact, and he saw that I had something to stop a Roxai attempt because I could just go for whatever we needed. Yeah. So, gets to my turn. On my upkeep, I Worldly Tutor for Thoracle.
I love that because they see it. You have to reveal it.
Yeah.
What are you getting here? Seaborn Muse.
Well, and the Endress player literally said at this moment, because I'd asked him if he had anything else for Thoracle, and he said no. And he literally said, I don't think I should have said that to you. And immediately I was like, yeah, I'm Worldly Tutoring for Thoracle here, buddy.
Oh, that's so funny. I want to sidetrack a little bit. I played in a game, it was like a 40-person tournament, and kind of almost a similar thing happened where I was like, all right, I don't remember. I think I was on Tim to Soccer or whatever I was on. And I was like, all right, guys, let this Mystical Tutor resolve on end step because I'm going to get a Toxic Deluge here, right? That's the only thing. It was like Magda and whatever it was. Roxai, Magda, somebody. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're definitely not going to mess up the tutor. Get you a Toxic Deluge. I was like, all right, cool. Fucking awesome. I go through my deck list, and I'm like, all right, I cut Toxic Deluge. My bad.
Oh, no.
Genuinely forgot. I looked, and me and my opponents are looking through my fucking library. We cannot find it. And I was like, damn. All right, I accidentally lied, and I genuinely wanted the Toxic Deluge because I thought we were dead. So I was like, okay, I have interaction in my hand. I'm just going to get a Tainted Pact. I feel like that's just a good card to have in my hand. 3 turns later, I fucking tutor for Thoracle, and they're like, doesn't he still have that Tainted Pact in his hand? And I was like, silence? That's Thoracle? but I shouldn't have, right? Because it should have been a Toxic Deluge, but I'm an idiot.
Right.
But then I accidentally won, and my opponents were like, yep. So I've had that done.
Yeah, I felt that was a crazy game, right? Like talking everyone into showing me their hand, convincing Roxai not to send it with the interaction that I cannot actually use to stop you. Because I'm very careful, right? I do not lie, ever. I hold to my deals. I do not lie. But, in that moment, what I said was very carefully worded, which is I have interaction to stop you. Doesn't mean I can cast that interaction, but I do have it.
It's a little slimy, but you're right. But in that... Roxai can speak up and be like, well, show it to me. Because that's what I do. Like, every time, two my games Saturday, it was just like, do you want to draw here? And I'm like, no, I don't want to draw. I have a Ranger Captain. I have Granite Balsher on the stack. And then I'm like, show me 3 counter spells between the two of you, and I will draw because I have 2 counter spells. And they're like, well, I don't know if I want to show you that. And I'm like, I will draw right now with my Granite Balsher on the stack if you show me 2 counter spells and you show me counter spell that you can cast. And they go, Flusterstorm, Fierce Guard. The other guy had a Flusterstorm. And I'm like, yep, I'm not winning. Draw. But if you do not show me that, right, I'm not doing it. So that's a little bit on the rocks high, and you're fine.
Right. Yeah. And he should have shown me, right? And like I said, I scrolled my words. I was very careful with how I worded it. And I mean, had the Kidden player had anything, right? Like there is a world in which I could have cast it. He did have a lot of mana, and I did not know at that time what he had in his hand. So there was a world in which I do get that extra treasure off of Lotho, and then I do cast it and blow him out right then and there because he did have a definitive win in hand. His hand was Breach, it was Infernal Plunge, Breach, and Grinding Station. So he had just the mana to do it. The Petal was already in his graveyard. So it was going to be tight. It was going to be very tight. And I wasn't 100% sure if he had the cards to actually start to get the Petal out, but it was going to be close.
I got you. You try to make it make sense in your head afterwards. You're like, he didn't have it.
Well, I think he did. Like, I think if he pushed, he had it. Like, I'm almost 100% certain. So that was like one of those things where I kind of got away with one a little bit there.
Well, Roxai is one of the decks that, Savage Crom got banned. I'm playing Roxai, and I played 25 games of Roxai in 3 weeks after the ban going into this tournament. And then 3 days before the tournament, I'm like, Roxai doesn't feel good. I'm getting my Soul Ring misstepped. Like, the deck's still good, right? Top 6, 2 top 16s, I think. The deck's still good, but I didn't feel good with it. And I was like, I don't think I go to the biggest tournament ever not feeling good on a deck. So literally Wednesday, I was like, Malcolm Timna, run it. And I was like, I found the cards all last minute. Friday night, I found all the cards for it. And, but...
Yeah, I think it's very much the epitome of a glass cannon right now. Yeah. Like, unless you can get some of the other pieces, which then slows down kind of the intention of the deck, then your first win attempt is, did I get there? And if not, I might not just be playing the rest of the game. Well, and I
think the common misconception with that deck is I think the deck is still really strong. It's the meta that changed. Roxai didn't change. Right. The meta changed. And more TNTs is way worse for Roxai. More Esper is way worse, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, all the other red decks and the blue farm decks or Roxai decks, more Roxai is better Roxai is, right? More of that, it's fine. But when you have more, now TNT is the most popular deck, I think, was the number 1 deck popularity. TNT and Kennen.
I think Blue Farm, I think Blue Farm was actually number 1. I think so. I think it was 32, right? And it was like 20 something for TNT.
Well, top 16, there was 4 TNTs, 1 Blue Farm, I think.
Yes. 3
TNTs, 1 Blue. Well, 2 TNTs in top 4, and that means everything. So, let's talk about it. We're here. This is what we're here for. Top 16, baby.
Yeah, probably the craziest game of Magic I've ever played. This one was me in seat 1, Rocco in seat 2. Cool. Yeah. So I ended up finishing 3rd with 21 points coming out of Swiss.
Feeling good.
So TNT, TNT in seat. So I was in seat 1, Rocco in seat 2, Rock Thras in seat 3, and then Rock Sai in seat 4.
Ooh, that's not where they want to be.
Yeah. So, really interesting game, the way it developed, because I think I got out a really decent start out of the gate, but the Roxai player was kind of the focus for a lot of this because they played a Waste Knot, which I've never seen a Roxai player play, but really spicy tech that they brought. For people who don't know, Waste Knot is if an opponent discards a creature card, you get to create a 4/4 zombie. If your opponents discard a land card, you get to create 2 black mana. If they discard a non-land or non-creature card, you draw a card. And he then he showed the wheel that he had in his hand. He's like, literally on his turn, he's like, show me the counterspell for this. And he showed me the wheel. And I then flashed my Fierce Guardianship I had in hand with my Thrasios out. So it was live. It was active. And he went, okay, cool. But then that kind of colored how the rest of that game progressed because now we had to constantly kind of worry about that. The Rocco player then put out Arena. Is it Arena Rector or Academy Rector? Which one's the Planeswalker one? It's Arena, right?
Yeah, but I can put it right here though.
Yeah, it's
Arena
whichever one the
Rector,
Planeswalker one
three
was.
in a white. Yeah, Arena Rector. Yeah.
Yeah, got out Vivian of the Hunt because he had a land that sacked it, and so that immediately was like a little terrifying. Got a 2-drop. I think they just got Archivist because really they were just they wanted value to figure out where they go from there. He showed me the Karmic Guide in his hand, so that was at least we knew that's where Karmic Guide was. So he wasn't going to be able to just to go through his deck to get it, but still very terrifying.
Yeah.
Rockthras had all the draw engines in the world. It felt like at one point. So I think they had a Mystic and a Ristic, but there was a weird judge call that ended up happening in that game. And the Rockthras player had forgotten to pay for his Mystic Remora trigger and had basically picked up his card. And then immediately put it back. It never entered his hand. So we knew like it wasn't like one of those things. But then the Rocco player, was a little upset about it because he felt like because the fix was basically we just walk it back and then he pays for the trigger because it's a detrimental trigger, so it has to go on the stack. And he kind of has a little bit new information now, and so the Rocco player was a little upset about that. Appealed to the judge, ended up kind of creating to the point where the Rockthras player was kind of graciously like, look, I'll let you guys make the choice. Like, does fish die or not? Like, I'll let y'all make it since I have a little extra information than I would have had if I had done this correctly.
Yeah, I think fish dies all day.
Right, and that's ultimately what ended up happening. He's like, I'm just gonna let fish go because there was still a little bit of arguing back and forth, and the other
keep going.
Yeah, because it was literally stalled the game for like I think it was like 20-25 minutes.
At that point, it's like you guys are like the Rocco player, whoever is gonna target my shit now because the judge now they're upset. It's like no, buy fish. Let's keep going.
I don't think so. Like the Rocco player was still pretty. Like it got a little heated, but the Rocco player for the most part was pretty cool the rest of the game. He was very nice afterwards. Like he never like targeted or was malicious the rest of the way. But I think it was just he was really really frustrated that the ruling basically benefited the player who made the mistake.
Yeah, I had my round 5. I had that, the round 5. The judge calling it because they couldn't go back because the time player. The judge kind of didn't help the guy. I understand the rules, but he made 3 miss what's it called, like RSVs, like 3 game violations, but it counted as 1 because it was in one sequence. But he made 3.
Yeah.
But it was 1. So then he made another one, his 4th, but it was only his 2nd one. So going into day 2, it restarts, and I'm like, I don't fucking agree with that at all. But I'm gonna fight a head judge. Okay, yeah, we lose because the judge, whatever. Okay, all right. Anyways,
yeah, it's actually funny you're talking about the time player. That's actually a really good friend of mine. We actually rode up together. He was telling me about that. He's like, I was so flustered, I just started screwing up left and right.
Yeah. Nah, he's a cool guy. The guy was cool, but it was just like we have to hold people accountable because that's why we have so many bad players in this format. Like people are okay with letting everything go. It's like no, you need. So if we hold him accountable, he still wins the game, but now he'll never do that again. So 5 minutes later, he does it again, and we're like, come on, man. Like, we're rooting for you. But there's no interaction. You got this. Slow down, right? You had 4 game violations, but they're technically 2. You should be out of this tournament, but the judge ruled in your favor. So just slow down a little bit, buddy. Right? The guy was cool.
What? Yeah, I don't think he would have been out of the tournament, right? Because I think 3 is a turn skip. No. I think, right?
Well, that's where it gets really weird because it depends on what the trigger is.
Yeah.
Like you can't miss 3 pack and negation triggers and it's okay. You have a detrimental trigger and you have a blah 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 trigger, right? But like you can't go back because how tie-in works with the counters, right?
Right.
So like, yeah, I guess technically, but like it was weird. It really doesn't matter. It's so irrelevant, but it's just like one of those things where like, hey, we need to hold players accountable. And so we can have a nice, better format. And it's not even just that in particular. It's just generally like I felt like no slow play was called the whole tournament. And I'm like, they took a 20-minute turn. In 10 minutes, they weren't making game actions. They were thinking. And then I untap and they tell me to hurry up because I was trying to pick my 10-minute attackers. And they're like, come on, man. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, I didn't see one slow play violation at all. And that's what was kind of aggravating.
So, yeah, I think people are they're really scared to call judge on those, right? Because they see them and they're like, oh, well, I see this happening. And, like, sometimes people are too quick to call judge. Like our game, a good example, right? Like, did it need to be a 25-minute judge call for that?
Yeah.
No. But I think other times people are too slow to call judge, right? Whether it's, like, stuff is happening in a game where you're starting to feel uncomfortable either with the rules or whatever's happening, and you go, hey, I just need a judge. I think people need to, be able to stand up for themselves a little bit. But also in those cases, right, like, and this is a good tip for newer players as well. When you are winning the game or you're in a loop, and especially if you're at time and there's a crowd gathering,
Slow down.
take a second. Just take 30 seconds.
Breathe.
You're already at time.
Breathe.
Exactly. Yeah. It is one of the tricks that I learned from some of my CEDH coaches that when you're in those moments where you've got the deterministic thing, just real quick, let nice calm peace come over you, and then do what you know what you need to do, right? You've played this deck 1,000 times. You've practiced it. You would not be paying all this money, traveling to a tournament if you didn't know what your deck did. And it's just, in those moments, just take that second to gather yourself and then go.
And it's one thing if the other guy's like, hey, man, you've taken a lot of time this turn. I want to turn, right? There's 30 seconds left and you're sitting there doing nothing. That's one thing. But I agree with you if it's like, hey, we're in the top 16. Like, we can all chill. There is no time. Right. Fucking play your turn. Don't let them bully you into making a wrong mistake. I agree with you.
Or if you're already at time in Swiss, right? Like, you're good.
Yeah. So anyways.
Nothing else happened. Yeah. So
anyways, Mr. Grimora.
Deviation.
I do that a lot. It's okay. Squirrel.
Yeah. So Rockdrass drew a ton of cards because they had the Rhystic and the Mystic. The Blue Farm player also had a Rhystic, so they were drawing a ton of cards. So it was kind of this weird game where it was like I was sitting there basically unassuming all game. I had no draw engine, didn't really do much. I was even choosing not to activate Thrasios just to even show like how unassuming I was. Like it was kind of a weird choice that I think probably some people were watching going like, what is he doing? But it was because the other three were so developed. In my hand, I already had everything I needed to win the game. Everything I needed to win the game. I literally just needed the battle to begin somewhere, anywhere, and pick my moment. And it unfolded when the Rogsai player decided to go for the wheel, right? That's when they did that. It was like, okay. Sorry, I need to step back because one thing that did change a lot of the calculation too, on the final turn, the Rocco player chose to get to sack one of their dorks to get Grand Abolisher. So we were kind of on a clock as well, knowing that going into Rocco's next turn, they were going to win the game, or presumably were, because why would you get a Grand Abolisher?
Right. Why would you put a target on your back if you're not winning?
Right. So we knew I could not pass turn, and they could not pass turn. So the battle needed to happen at some point going out of my turn. And I think that's when it began, is out of my turn, I decided to pass. There are 2 Valley Flood Callers on Brogthras and Rogsai's board. So they start flashing in a bunch of stuff. The Rogsai player decides this is where they're going to wheel. So they decide to wheel here. And I basically, because at first the Rockdash player was okay with the wheel happening. They'd made a deal, and then the Rockdash player was thinking about it. He's like, I don't know that I can take this deal, actually, because it puts you so far ahead by dumping my hand and their hands. You're not only going to get the 7 off of the wheel, but you're going to get all the mana and all the cards you get to draw off of everything we've discarded, plus you're still going to be at flash speed. So I convinced them we needed to not let this resolve. So the counter war started hot and heavy. Everything came out.
That's what you wanted.
Exactly. It was exactly what I was waiting for to happen.
Fight.
And at a certain point, it was like, I think the Rockside player realized they were basically about to just get blown out. So I kind of was like, well, let me get my Valley Flood Caller out. And then I showed them my meme bet. And I was like, I can do a bunch of stuff on this stack if you let my Valley Flood Caller resolve. They're like, well, I have nothing to stop you anyway. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, sick. So all right. Corded out. I corded out my Valley Flood Caller. Got Valley Flood Caller online. Immediately threw down Retraction Helix. And I said, I am now the threat. Welcome to the table.
Hey, I win. I win.
So I targeted my Birds of Paradise because, the Valley Flood Caller did not have haste. So targeted my Birds of Paradise. At this point, another battle begins ensuing. I think Rock Thrash just starts flashing out everything under the sun that they can. I think I think even the Rocco player flashed something out. I don't remember what, some white creature out, just to keep drawing cards into everyone's hands. The Rockside player eventually found a mental misstep. I think there's another small stack battle on top of that. And I said, yeah, sure, that's fine. I then resolved, or no, I think I resolved meme bet first. I let the meme bet resolve, ended up flashing that out, got access to everyone's graveyards that had been done. There had been no counter spells, had actually left the stack yet, so I didn't get access to anyone's counter spells. But the reason I did that was because Roxai had basically kind of shown that they had a counter spell in hand still to basically back up anything, and I needed the meme bet to resolve because I had a plan kind of coming off of that. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, at least this lets me get bounce spells for the Grand Abolisher. Worst comes to worst, because there's a Cyclonic Rift and a Into the Floodmaw in there. And I was kind of like, that's how I was kind of talking through it. Ended up Court of calling out the Eternal Witness out of my library to get, and then I think I held priority on the Chord, let the Mental Misstep resolve. Or maybe I did let the Mental Misstep resolved, I think, first, and then I cast the Chord. But anyway, Retraction Helix was in my graveyard. Corded out the corded out the Eternal Witness so that I could get Retraction Helix back to my hand. Cast it. At this point, Rockside did not actually have any interaction. No one had any interaction. So
I thought you corded out the Valley Flood Caller.
So I corded out the Valley Flood Caller with my cord, and I grabbed the cord out of Rock Thras's library with the meme pen.
So sick. Thank you.
So I was able to get, so I was able to get the Ewit, Retraction Helix. This time Retraction Helix landed. Another stack battle then began because I had to start casting stuff with Soul Ring. So yeah, I had to bounce my Soul Ring, start recasting it, which then triggered Rhystic Studies. And I was trying to get mana positive enough to where, because I had a Mox Diamond in hand, so I was trying to get mana positive enough to where I could cast enough Rhystic Studies or cast enough Soul Rings to do other stuff. But I was also kind of waiting to see if there's more interaction, if they were kind of worried about the 2 bounce spells that were sitting in the graveyards that I still had access to. So I kind of waited to see. Then they did. They did have more interaction. So there was more battles on top of that. A D-SWAT actually came out and hit to Retraction Helix my own bird, which I then took a second because I thought I got cold stopped there. And then was like, okay, take a second. As I was saying before, like, just take a deep breath. Think about what you're doing. You have flash speed. What are you doing? You've got a Mox Diamond in your hand. You're fine. So I flashed out the Mox Diamond, kept the loop going, because basically every time I was flashing in anything, I began to untap my birds for mana because I didn't really need to bounce anything yet. So I just started flashing in all the stuff out of the meme bet. I flashed in like a Mystic Moor to get untaps. Basically at this point I've got a couple rocks that I can also just start bouncing. I've got Kinnan out, so I'm making a ton of extra mana.
Shit.
Yeah, like I am good now. I just have to now fight through these Rhystic Studies. I end up bouncing both Rhystic Studies with the Into the Floodmaw and the Psych Rift. At this point, I pick up the Mox Amber and I said, I tap the bird. Mox Amber comes to hand. I said, all right, cast Mox Amber. Nothing. All right, I was like, cool, we're good. Tap, mana.
Well, the problem with that is, like, how do you
there,
cast Thrasios, right? Unless he's already out.
Thrasios is already out. Yeah, I'd had Thrasios the whole game. Like I was saying before, like I had the Fierce online from the very beginning of the game.
That game. That's the same game. Okay. I was going to say, that's
still round 6.
Yeah, Valley Flood Caller is a little weird. A little weird.
Yeah, we were like 30 cards deep into the stack. And that stack never actually resolved down.
Yeah, because you just Thorkel. Or not Thorkel. Thrasios and then draw your whole deck.
Yep, draw my whole deck. And then I had to Born Upon a Wind into Thrasios. Into Thorkel.
That's fine, because you have your whole deck in your hand.
Exactly, right?
Dude, that's sick. So you won.
Yeah, so craziest stack battle I've ever been a part of. I was directing traffic pretty hard in that game, and I was able to keep all the attention off of myself until I presented.
So how does that, I've never been in a top 16 like that. How does that feel, like, doing that? Like, are you nervous? Are you anxious? And then finally winning, and then you're like, holy shit, I'm about to play in the fucking top 4. Like, can you run us through those emotions and kind of how you're feeling? And how do you go, oh, that was the craziest game I ever played. Now I got a top 4, right? Like, do you run to the bathroom? Do you, like, go get a monster? Like,
yeah, so I don't think it hit me right away. I'll be honest. Like, I felt like I was in a good spot all game. So I was like, I think I'm okay. I just have to find a way to close this game out. The deck had been really performing super well for me all day, so I felt really confident that I could find a window and close it. But I think once it happened, I kind of stood up for a second and I was like, oh yeah, I won, cool. And then I was like, all my friends were like, congratulating me and cheering me, and everyone was giving me hugs. And I was like, oh wait, like this is the boil. I'll just top four the boil. For context, I went 0-3-2 my first boil and scrubbed out hard. And now I'm sitting here just about to top four, and I was like, oh wow, like this just happened.
But you can't get too excited because you want to win.
Right, yeah. So I don't know. Part of me was just like, I'm just happy to be
Yeah,
here.
that's how I was the whole time. I'm just like happy to be here. I'm playing fucking Magic.
Yeah. So I started watching my wife's game because she was top 16.
That would have been.
She looked like she was in a good spot, and so I was watching her game and wanted to see how she would kind of do stuff, and then didn't quite work out her way, and I ended up walking away because I got too nervous watching it. I was like, I really want to be like, come on, do this, do that.
Why
and I was
would
like,
you
no.
do that? That would have been crazy. First fucking husband and wife Final Four. That would have been.
I really wanted it for her.
Yeah.
I really wanted it for her. I think it would have been awesome, and I think it would have been great to show like women do belong in CDH, and they absolutely can kick your ass if you're not.
It's got nothing to do with being a woman. Yeah,
exactly.
Women are smart. They're actually smarter than men, but that's a whole nother debate. Statistically, they're smarter than men.
So I wanted it for her bad. She just couldn't quite get it. Kevin is an amazing player.
The Kennen guy, Vadrick or whatever. Oh yeah, that guy was fucking cooking. You guys had to.
Yeah.
Magda had to save the day on that one. So let's get into it. It's been an hour 20 minutes. Let's get into the final pod. So you're on your second, right? Kennen, I watched the whole game.
Kennen, me. Kennen, me.
NATO.
The other TNT.
That's my guy.
And then Magda at Suit 4.
Yep, and then Magda. Yep.
Yeah, so, what a crazy game that was. I think
it's crazy as the top 16 game, but that game was pretty cool to watch.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no, right? Because, the way the game unfolded for me was really, really weird. I started off pretty good, and I kind of made a really maybe short-sighted bet. I got rid of the Force of Negation out of my hand early, kind of banking on the fact that maybe no one was going to push too fast, or the push was going to come from a way that I really wasn't going to be able to interact with anyway. So I was like, if Magda pushes, I'm not going to be able to really interact with what they're doing much. For the most part, Force isn't going to do much. If NATO goes for creature combos, it's not going to do much. But the Gemstone keep was too good to get rid of. I think it was Gemstone, right? I think that's what I ended up pitching it to. And so that was the risk, because the rest of the hand was pure greed. Pure greed.
I think you had a Remora. You sat on for a few turns.
Yeah. So I was like, maybe this gets me back into it with the counter magic and stuff. So as long as no one attempted early, I thought I was in a good spot. And the way the board developed, I felt like that was a really good bet. And then he got the Basalt off of one of those first Thrasios flips. And I was like, crap. Why, bro? Why? Why would you do this? And what ended up happening, and I know for a lot of people, they're probably like, why is this game so weird? Why did Magda do all these different stuff?
Yeah, the Godfair statue was the weird part for me.
Right, and the reason why is because I had showed my hand to NATO, because we basically showed our hands to each other to show the way this game was going into Kennen's favor was so heavy that we were basically like, okay, let's show each other our hands, let's see what we can cobble together. I really had nothing going on, and he really had nothing going on, except I think he had one. Oh, it's the silence. He had the silence. That's what he showed me.
I know he demonic tutored for a while, and it looked like he demonic tutored for the silence. I think because okay. So context, Kennen was fucking out of the gates winning the game.
Yep.
And then you
100%.
sit behind a Remora, and then NATO detutored for. It looked like a silence. I don't know if it was in his hand, right? And then
I don't know either.
He ended up interacting, and then Magda had the split-second guy to stop Kennen in its tracks.
Right. Which I did not know about. Magda never showed that to me. I think
he showed it to NATO. He showed it to NATO.
Yeah. So he never showed it to me, and I was probably that was. I think he didn't show it to me because I had kind of exploded out of the gate a little bit too, just not quite to the degree Kennen did, and. So I had the Hazel's Brewmaster from that beginning. NATO Salt in my hand. So the battle that basically happened, whatever ended up happening, right? I drew a bunch of cards going into Kevin Stern where he attempted to jam the Basalt. The silence happened. He countered it, and then the freaking seed smash from the top rope.
Holy
before that,
shit.
Before he cast that silence, though, Nato wanted to know, can you still, like, because I basically said, like, I'm not attempting to win on my turn. Like, we made the deal. And he's like, well, are you still going to hold to that deal? He's like, I need to see your hand before I'm going to cast the silence. Because he's like, I don't feel comfortable king making you if that's how this game's going to play out. Like, I'd rather I'm not going to king make anyone. I showed him my hand, and I had
Nato's a good guy.
So all my draws, right. All my draws that game were all gas, no brakes, is like my wife put it, because she was standing behind me watching. And she's like, all gas, no brakes. Because I drew all my win cons just right in a row, every single one. And I was like, oh, crap. So he's asked me to show him his hand. And I'm like, dude, I don't know that I can do that. But he's not going to get silence unless I do. So I show him the freaking Demcon and the Thoracle. And he's like, all right, like, what are you doing with that, dude? And I was like, we made a deal. I will hold to my deal. It's not worth it to my reputation and to who I am as a player.
Oh, I don't know, man. Top 4, though. Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. I did not, right? Because then what is my win, right? It's, I lied and cheated my way into a win. Or
there's going to be an asterisk to it.
Right. So I said, I will hold to my deal. I will not cast my demonic constellation Thoracle. So signs went out. The seed smash, did its thing. Went to my turn. I did exactly as I said. I think I just played down some dorks or something or developed and then passed. Nato, I think, then attempted to jam their Thoracle through.
The Eldritch Evolution, the birds, I think. Thoracle, and then it passed, and then you got a fucking swan song.
What he even said, he's like, I don't know why I did that. Like, why would you be bluffing about interaction? And I was like, I don't know, dude. Like, I've been saying I had stuff this whole time. Like, because I had 100% win on my turn. And the only reason I could not win was because of the deal. Right.
Yes.
So then Magda realized, like, Kevin wasn't going to get there on his turn anymore, and he had no interaction to deal with my hand. So he had to go get God Pharaohs because he was still a turn or two off as well. So he had to go get God Pharaohs because the only thing that stopped me at that moment, I think I was sitting 1 mana short of what I needed to win the game once he cast God Pharaohs. So great play on his part. I think that's when I cast down the Lotus Petal, and then the Petal was going to give me, I think, just enough. Excuse me one second. Oh, sorry.
You're good.
And the Lotus Petal was going to give him just enough mana, or the Lotus Petal was going to give me just enough mana to finally finish the game, but I had to pay 2 for it, so then I had to pass again. And then Magda played down Dampening Sphere, and I was like, oh, man. This is never happening now. There's no world in which this is happening. So
good.
Yeah, so good, right? And I'm sitting there like,
bye guys, Cradle.
I'm literally like 8 mana. My Demcon combo is now 8 mana. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So there's some additional context. I played like Survival of the Fittest, I think on either turn 1 or 2, and had just been chilling all game long. I never activated it, never felt the need to use it. At one point, going out of Kevin's turn, the Kinnan player, I know some people question it. They're like, well, why didn't he attempt to Survival the Fittest at that end step and grab the Hazels? And the fear was that I was sitting on was I thought Magda had something. I didn't know what, but the way they left their mana open told me they had something that was going to deterministically stop me from being able to win this game and probably punt the game in someone's direction. And so I was playing too much chicken with myself or whatever, but I ended up going to my turn. I was also trying to show like I was so out of this game at this point because all they saw was the Thoracle Consult. I think they'd forgotten about the Hazel's Brewmaster, but I needed to still set something up and give myself a chance, a window somewhere. So that's when I decided I'll go ahead and activate Survival here, show I'm not really much. I'm not doing too much. Really quickly, got Druid, and I was like, I'm immediately discarding Druid. I was like, all right, guys, what do I need to help sort of stave this game off from us losing? Kevin's got a Hull Breaker that he can't really do much with because of Dampening Sphere. Magda's set up really nicely. I think they've got the Artifact Dwarf. They're really close. I think Nato and I were both in the same shoes where we both looked like we were pretty far out of that game.
Nato was cooked after the
Right, yeah. So I was like, okay, so let's talk about Bowmaster. Like, does Bowmaster really do anything? Okay, well, it stops Magda. Maybe it does something to Kevin if he tries to do something, because, does he bounce the Dampening Sphere? and then go for it? Like, how does it going to play out? And the attention came away from Devoted Druid very quickly. Very, very quickly. People kind of forgot about it, and which was kind of what my hope, my intention was. And got Bowmaster, but then never really saw a reason to cast it. Never seemed like a good opportunity for it. Didn't really want to give anyone, a copy target. I didn't know what people were holding at that point, so didn't really feel like I was going to do much. So I never felt the need to cast it. No one really set anything up that put me in a position. Again, I had Brewmaster this whole time. Kevin ends up tapping out. He kind of insinuated that he had something in Flash Speed to tap, to bounce for Hullbreaker Horror if I tried to go for a win. But he tapped out. And so I saw the window was there. I was like, if Magda's got something, they've got something. But I don't think I get another turn at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to jam. And I was like, this is it. It's do or die. If Magda's got it, then I'm stopped and I lose. But I think I lose if I pass and don't try something.
Yeah.
So with Kevin tapped out, it was the only moment because I was like, there's nothing in the game that I can think of that he can flash out at 1 minute. Or with 2 mana is basically 4. I was like, I don't see any world in which he's got, there's no spell. Like there's nothing, right? Not with the God Pharaoh still online. So I felt like he had nothing. I knew NATO had nothing. It was really just down to did Magda have interaction or not. So I was like, all right, we're gonna go ahead and jam the Hazels here. Paid the 6 mana for it, and he read it, and I don't think he quite understood what it did, because he was like, okay, cool. He's like, everyone picked up my graveyard then and started looking. They saw the Devoted Druid, like, okay, so this is a win attempt. And it was like, okay. And I think he thought he had an interaction moment that came after the food token came on the battlefield. So he let me exile Devoted Druid. The food token entered. And I found out afterwards it was a Talon Gates that he was holding the whole time.
Oh.
And so he did have me cold stopped if he had known where to interact. And I think that was where he kind of made the mistake of, I wasn't quite sure how to interact with that particular card because he had never seen it before.
So if he would have Talon Gates the ETB, right?
I would, yeah.
It would have been over.
I would have had
nothing.
Been
cooked, and the Magda would have won.
I would have been fit. Yep. Pretty sure it would have played out that way, or Kevin would have figured out a way to bounce Dampening Sphere and just go for it at that point.
But I would have asked NATO. I'd have been like, hey man, you're on TT. How do I stop this?
Yeah, and I was a little surprised there wasn't a little bit more discussion around it because it seemed like he was thinking of something, and then he was like, okay, yeah, it exiles. And I was like, oh, okay. Present win now. And yeah, then that was it. So, again, kind of got away with it a little bit there. Not everyone quite understanding the stack battle that played out. Kevin kind of making a mistake on his part. And I think sometimes when you're in those games, right, you're just looking for the tiniest crease to kind of exploit and push through for your win, and was able to find it.
Yeah, I mean, now you're the Boil 2 winner, right?
I
don't think there's any asterisks. I think that was a good play. You found your window. You could say that guy punted, but who knows, right? Like, you had it. But you got your win, and the odds were against you. You had a draw and then 2 losses, and then theoretically you can't really lose more than what you lost after that, right?
Yeah.
So I think exactly. You earned the win, and there's no asterisks. And it sucks that you fucking drew the prize. Like, you could have been like, fuck you guys. I probably would have done the same thing. That's a lot of money, right? So,
yeah. And so I mean, it's right. It's the bird in hand versus the 2 birds in the bush, right? Like, I'd rather have that money than punt and then have
when it's that much money. Yeah, I agree with you. It's like when you're playing for these dual lands or store credit or $200, that's one thing. But yeah, if you're talking thousands of dollars, I think it's like guarantee $2,000 in my pocket or guarantee like $400 in my pocket. No, I'm good. Like, yeah. But I'm with you. But congratulations.
Appreciate it, man.
The fucking Boil winner. I'm so happy and excited that you're gonna do this pod. Hopefully I'm the first pod that you did. I think I sniped you. I think I got you right. And I'm gonna edit it tomorrow. It'll be out Wednesday, and I'm so happy for you. I watched 3 of your videos. Just your vibe and your friend group is very like contagious. Like, you guys are laughing and there's like a Birds of Paradise, and you can't like, for me, the first video I watched, the one you put, I think the pre-ban or the post-band one, or preparing for the Boyle one, right? So it's like laughter, laughter, laughter. What is going on? What are they laughing about? And it's like, okay, something's funny. But no, you guys were laughing the whole 25 minutes. And I love that. And I'm like, I want to fucking do a pod with this guy. I bet this guy's really fucking dope. and that's because it reminds me of my friend group. And like people that didn't go to the Boyle, I think the Boyle was like, I love CCS and the Boyle was so much fun. Me and my brother almost top 16. He was 1 win away. But it was just like, I think 2 wins away. I'm not sure. But it was just a fun environment. It was a really good event. And we don't know what Top Deck is going to do in the future. I talked to some people. We don't know, right? But CCS is throwing another event. I wanted to shout that out. February 1st, they're having a 10K, February 1st. And I can't recommend CCS more. Like it's like a mini mall, an anime, and there's so much room. And then it really is a good time. Was there any like last thoughts or anything you wanted to say or anything you wanted to plug?
Yeah. Just wanted to, thank you for letting me come onto your channel and talk about the Boyle. It was a really fun experience. I love this community, and I have met a lot of really cool people since I started playing CDH. And,
me too.
Really just could not say enough about how great everyone is, how great Top Deck is. Like I know they've taken a lot of heat recently, but we really just wouldn't have a CDH without them. So I do appreciate the work they've put in.
Yeah, hats off for sure.
Yeah, for everything they've done for the community and watching it grow. Obviously I want to plug my channel. So I'm the producer and editor of the Idiot Brewing Company, which I run with my best buddies, TK, Chris, and July. And we release every Sunday. And we do deck brews, we do gameplay. We've got a new segment coming up where we're going to do some really interesting stuff. So if you guys want to watch more of that, I don't usually appear on those too much because I like to stay in the background and do more producing and editing. But if there's interest,
all the links are going to be down below. All the links, his Twitter, his deck list, everything's going to be down below. You guys got to check it out for sure. It's a good time. And I was going to say, I noticed. Do you guys collab or anything? I would love to be on, but like I can definitely hook you up with like Freedom Waffle, or if you want anybody like that on the channel, I can hook you up because I really think that something like that could boost your channel.
Yeah, we do collaborate. We had Wounded Satellite on,
Cool.
And then we TK, right? He's PWP, so he's got connections left and right.
You gotta hook me up with him. It's one of the guys I want on my podcast. He's always been like a voice of CDH.
For sure. I he'd love to, and we'd love for you to be on sometime. We're always looking for people to game with. Last thing is, my DMs are open right now. I've just started doing CDH coaching. I was doing it more for local people that I in like my play group, but I want to kind of test my hand at it a little bit more. So if you want coaching. My DMs are open, and I'm absolutely happy to help them.
Yeah, and then shout out if you can't find him on social, right down below. I'll send you all his social stuff, and I would love to brew with you a little bit. I have a couple ideas that I'm kind of playing around post meta, and now I know TNT is good, so I might play with TNT a little bit. But I want to I got a couple ideas out there, but I want someone like you. He could be like, hey man, I think you're just cope, or hey, that could be an idea. So maybe I might do a coaching session. Who knows? But that's about all the time we have for today. That was great podcast. I learned a lot, and I'm impressed. Like I said, some of those games, you got to by the skin of your teeth. But, hey, no one can take it away from you. You're the fucking Boyle 2 winner. Biggest tournament ever. Tournament was amazing. Fantastic. Great place to be. And it was I agree with you. It's a great environment. Probably 98% of people I asked to do the pod, they do it. Like, Higher did my pod, and I had, like, 12 subscribers. And I'm like, hey, man. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. I don't care. What?
Yeah, it's
okay.
It's such a great community, right? 100%. Like, they want to talk about Magic, and they'll talk to anyone who will listen.
I think, like, 97% of the community. Like, 97, 98. Yeah. Like, I've been left on red a couple times, but that's fine. But, like, all the people like you're like, yeah, I'll do a fucking podcast. Fuck it. Like, I'm going to be the first podcast to have the Boyle winner on. I think that's fucking sick. And then maybe going forward, we can, I could do a segment of, hey, my tournament breakdowns with fucking Jordan, right? The Boyle 2 winner. Like, you never know. But I appreciate your time. Congratulations again,
Yeah, man.
you are the best player in the world right now. No one can take it from you. But yeah,
I appreciate
kick ass at the Invitational, right? I think that's going to be your next big challenge. You know, take it from here. You know.
Yeah.
I think you definitely know what you're talking about. Like, I could talk to somebody about CDH for an hour, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And you're like, no, these are the lines of play. This is how I won. This is how I didn't win. This card,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Sorry, it was a little messy at times. Like I have a really. I tell my wife all the time I have a goldfish brain, so like I have to write stuff down all the time, or I'm gonna forget it, and I start mixing games up and lines up, and I'm like, wait a second, hold on.
Well, we started playing at 10 a.m. Saturday until 8 p.m. Saturday, and then wake up barely no sleep, and then you played from 10 a.m. Saturday to like 8 o'clock at night. So you have like 24 hours of straight magic, and people don't understand. Is like, oh, why'd you make that bad play? I haven't fucking pissed in 6 hours because my game went to a draw, and then everybody's waiting on me, and then I hopped into another game, and that game went to a draw, and then I won that game, but it was in the last turn, and then I ran and pissed, and then I came back, and they're like, oh, why didn't you cast Mystic Moral? I forgot and run blue. I don't know.
Oh, you're on Esper, so you really know the struggle, right?
Yeah.
Draw. Next round, draw again. You're
my
like,
first 3 rounds were draw.
Heat.
I went 0-3-0. Or no, I went 0-2-1, and then I drew again, and I was just like, fuck, shit.
At one point when I was running Esper, I had more draws than wins and losses combined. Yeah. I just could not close.
I think Malcolm Temna going forward. I think that's a deck I'm going to play like on the servers with the homies, but just like to go into a tournament, I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah. But just like you said, like. Just pick up TNT. Just pick up Blue Farm. Just pick up the decks that can win. Because you're right. I literally had 25 cards in my hand, and we drew because I didn't have 3 more pieces of interaction. Because I instep Born Upon a Win in a round. Tangent, but instep Born Upon a Win. And then I'm like, guys, I'm not winning here. And they're like, okay, cool. Because I knew they had interaction. And I was just like, blah, 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 draw cards, and I demonic tutored on instep for the Grand Abolsher, and then I drew like 4 or 5 cards with Temna on my main phase, and I was just hoping to get Grand Abolsher and Cavern of Souls, because if I have Cavern of Souls on Grand Abolsher, I win the game. But I didn't have another tutor, so I was like, okay, I'll instep, get the Grand Abolsher, untap, draw for turn, nothing. Okay, draw 5, nothing. Okay, tap 1 ring for 3, nothing. And I'm just like, fuck, Grand Abolsher, and then we ended up drawing. And I was just like, fuck, all I needed was Cavern Soul. But like fucking TNT, you need 7 of the 1-card combos in your deck, right? Like, I need a survival and I win. Right.
Well, that was funny, right? That was the old criticism of TNT is that you draw forever, and then you'd sit there and you'd be like, well, I still can't find Devoted Druid, so I guess I lose, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. But all right, that's another Noofuls podcast. We appreciate you, Jordan. Click all the links below. Watch them. It's going to be out this Wednesday. I'm super excited. Y'all have a good day. See ya.
Have a good one, everyone.